And statements expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of WWDB, its staff, or management.
You are listening to In the Know with David O. Informative, substantive, intelligent talk radio on 860 AM WWDB. And now, your host, Philadelphia Councilman David O.
Good afternoon. This is David O. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for tuning in to WWDB 860 AM, intelligent, substantive, informative talk radio. I'm your host, City Councilman David O., and I like to bring you some in-depth information from some real subject matter experts, people who really know what you're talking about, to share with you some insights that I hope will be helpful to you and also very interesting. Today, my guests are Tim Haahs, CEO and best-selling author, who interestingly, in addition to his very amazing life and choices, which I think you will really find, as I do, quite amazing, he manages a very successful business, and he does it off of Proverbs 31 from the Bible. Now, that is out-of-the-box thinking, and I think we could all use some new ways of looking at things, and I will tell you it works for him. He's been the subject of some television shows and in Korea and other places, and he's an award-winning architect and engineer. Our next guest that we're spotlighting is Tigre Hill. You may have heard of Tigre Hill. It's not Tiger Hill, but Tigre Hill. Tigre Hill is a documentary filmmaker, and I would say filmmaker, as he continues to develop and build his career. And he has done some projects in the past, and he is off to some new projects that we're going to hear about, and I think he recently completed another documentary film. And then finally, of course, each week we have a question from our listeners, and this week the question is, how do I fund my arts and culture project? And to answer that question, we have the executive director of the Philadelphia Cultural Fund, who basically gives out about $3 million every year, at least this year or last year. And they give it out in small amounts of money, $15,000, $16,000 at the most, to many groups throughout the city as part of what is building and helping our city in terms of building character and educating folks and things like that. So Barbara Silzle is here, the executive director. Let me just thank Weinerman Pain and Wellness, our sponsor of this show. Certainly thank them and the great job that they do. Last week, if you were listening, we heard from Buddy Osborne, the founder of Rock Ministry. He's taken his life and his ability as a Golden Gloves boxer and his commitment religiously. He's a pastor. But he has, through boxing, saved a lot of very angry and difficult kids. Christine Cox, co-founder of Ballet X, just a fantastic, innovative dance company. And, of course, the question was hiring in the Philadelphia Fire Department. If you want to be a firefighter or paramedic, they are hiring. Fire Commissioner Adam Thiel was our guest. But right now, let me say hello to Timothy Haahs. Thank you for joining.
Hi, well, great to be here.
Okay, fantastic. For those who don't know, Timothy Haahs wears several hats. Timothy Haahs is a businessman. He's a architect, engineer, and he is also a pastor, as was Buddy Osborne, interestingly enough. So 2 times in a row, I have men of God sitting before me, one boxing and one building structures. Let me give you a little bit of background about Tim Haahs. Tim was born in Korea, emigrated to the U.S. with his father, who was a pastor, and he studied engineering and architecture, and and started his business in, I think it was 1994, which ultimately grew into a large firm with about 50 employees. Is that
yes,
right?
Correct.
About 50 employees, headquartered in Blue Bell, Pennsylvania, but also with regional branches in Miami, Atlanta, New Brunswick, and other places around the world. He received the Blue Chip Enterprise Initiative Award in 1998, was named one of the top 5 engineering firms in Greater Philadelphia by the Philadelphia Business Journal in 2006, 2007, 2010, 2012, and 2013. He is also on the board of overseers at Albert Einstein Healthcare Network. He's been on there since 2015, and he was appointed by President Barack Obama, confirmed by the Senate, as a member of the board of the National Institute of Building Science. He also sits on the board of Biblical Theological Seminary and the Network Among Korean American Leaders and the Jason Foundation. Well, that's a lot of things, but let me start with this. First of all, you have a very interesting story. I know it, and I've told it before, but I'd like to just ask you if you'd share with our guests what happened. You were working in a company, you decided to start your own business, and then what happened?
Well, originally I was doing pretty well with another company that I was working for. Became a principal at sometime late 20s. So I thought I made it pretty good in life for a young age. And then it all happened some October 1992 while I was driving Pennsylvania Turnpike. And all of a sudden I just passed out and collapsed, and I was up by myself. And when I woke up, I don't know whether it was 10 seconds or 10 minutes later, and I found myself, my car standing smack middle in the highway. I did not get into any kind of an accident, fortunately. And then I managed to go to hospital, and after some examination for a couple weeks at a local hospital, and then went transferred to the University of Pennsylvania Hospital. About 2 weeks later, they told me, doctor came to me and said, "Tim, you have a serious problem with your heart." And then ... in summary, he said, the only way for you to survive is to have a heart transplant.
Wow.
That just struck a chord in me, and just didn't know how to handle. And I thought I lived a pretty decent life, pretty kind of life that I thought that I could live without a law, pretty conforming citizen, and go to church every Sunday, so forth, and things like that. And as to why God would do this to me. And at that time, I had a 3-4-year-old, 2 girls, and wife, and great family, and to be stuck with this kind of news. And then, in order for me to receive a heart, I had to be in the hospital and waiting for a heart. It took me about 6 months.
In the hospital?
In the hospital. I couldn't go anywhere. And during that period of time, for 2 weeks, I was just crying out. And really not even asking, I was rebelling against God as to why he was doing this to me. And then one day I just realized I just need to accept the fate and whatever this means. And I didn't have anything to hold on to. I mean, I spoke to my parents, friends, and no one really gave me the answer that I needed for me to move on. And then the only thing I knew at the time was the Bible. But first 2 weeks I didn't want to touch the Bible. But then I started reading the Bible, and many, many times. I read actually the Bible from the Genesis to Revelation 3 times while I was in the hospital for 5 months. And there I realized there is purpose for everything that God does in our life, how difficult it may be. And then I came across just reading everything. But when I come to Proverbs 31, and I realized there's something that was for me very special. And I used that as I decided at that time I want to do something about this. And at the same time when I was in the hospital, prior to that, it was all about achieving my own success. I mean, I thought, you go to school, you work hard in a company, in whatever, to bring about the success for your own, for your family. And that was what the success was all about to me. And then one day, as I was reading, realized that there's one component that I was missing quite a bit. There was God gave us a command, two commands. It's ultimate command. One is to love your God with all your hearts and all your souls, all your minds. And I looked at that and says, well, since I went to church all my life, I thought I was doing pretty good with that. And then, but there was second one that's also a requirement. That was to love your neighbor as yourself. And then realized I never really did that.
Wow.
Because success was really for myself. It wasn't for my neighbor. And I began to really look at that and reflect on that and realize I got to do both, not just for one, just one. So as I came across Proverbs 31, realized I could use this to build a business to help those that I need.
Right. I'm going to interrupt you because some of our listeners may not know what Proverbs 31 says, and quite frankly, I do, but I wouldn't have gotten that from that verse. Could you summarize for our listener what's in Proverbs 31, and how did you draw from there a way to basically operate a business?
Well, the Proverbs 31 it's titled in the Bible as "Woman of a Noble Character."
Woman of noble character.
That's right.
Okay.
And usually the pastors refer to that as women should be like this. I remember when I was young, some pastor would say, read this and make sure your wife is going to be something like this.
All right.
And then the young pastor would teach the young girls, and you should be like this. And basically the woman of noble character talks about how you need to be special, how you need to be caring and kind, how you need to get up early in the morning and do your thing and go work hard and help those that I need, and all that is in there.
Right.
So people refer to that as to woman. And,
right.
But if you really know, as I'm a Christian, so in Christianity, it's about when you believe in Christ, He is the groom and we are
the bride.
Right. So as a Christian, you're married to Jesus. Therefore, we all become wife. That's the big click that I had.
Okay. That spoke to you in a way that you saw your future in what you do.
That's right. So it wasn't really for a woman, but for all of us, all of us as believers, how we are to conduct in life, the purpose in life, how to behave at home and workplaces. So that's where I drew everything. All my company principle, philosophy, purpose statement, mission statement, way of life, all came from Proverbs 31.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you because time can go very quickly when we're talking about this, and there's some points I really want to hit. But, your company has been very successful, and certainly commercially and just in terms of your long-term, very happy employees. And normally if somebody said, I have this idealistic way of running my business, I'd be like, okay, well, that doesn't usually work, to tell you the truth. But for you, it really has worked.
Because when you live in a way that it's depicted in the Bible, as I described it in Proverbs 31, that's what most people desire. You want desire. People actually, they go to work for make a living. But ultimately, we all desire to do a higher purpose, a greater purpose. And when you are identifying a company that has a greater purpose, even the employee gets really excited. They feel, even though they may be working there to make a living, but they realize the things that they do is ultimately helping the greater purpose.
Let me stop you. How does building buildings and parking lots achieve that greater purpose?
Well, parking structure, parking facility that we design as an architect and engineers, it just means of getting that work of doing greater things for others and helping those who are in need. So we make profit.
Yes.
The Proverbs 31 clearly says she sees to it that her trading is profitable. So we said we want to make a profit. And the next verse says she helps those who are in need. So
right.
To help those who are in need, that's our mission statement. So we will go work very hard and make some money, and then help those who are in need.
And how How do you do that? I will say that I know you have some very innovative parking structures, and you have explained to me in the past, hey, Dave, you see this thing, it's just a parking lot to you, but people have to get there. They're busy. They're frustrated sometimes. They're challenged. It has to be convenient. It has to be the right place. The costs are high. If you don't manage the costs, they can't have a convenient parking space. And so you're trying to improve their lives and also manage, the cost, the labor, everything. And then with the profits, I know you have a vehicle for giving to charity. But could you explain, because I think we got the part about giving to charity, but could you go a little deeper into, how is the parking lot or the parking building something that because I think that's the part of me as a person. I don't get excited about the parking facility, but that's what makes you special. What is it about the parking facility that really you see that I don't see?
Hey, parking is the first destination.
Okay.
Of any place. Parking is the first impression. So a lot of people think of parking as just the storage of cars. And, the parking does not have a good name for the last 20, 30, 40 years, whatever they built. It just looks ugly and dingy and that kind of thing. We have really transformed that last 15, 20 years. And we have created as parking is no longer just storage for cars. It's really people place. It's the first impression of any place that people wants to go. If you're going to go to University of Pennsylvania, what I was out of my surgery, parking is your first impression. If you want to go to a mall, parking is your first impression. And we take parking as a kind of a people place. And we want to make sure that it's uneventful. It's whether the people gather first. So we like to integrate parking with other mixed use projects such as grocery stores or different kind of amenities that can go into the parking structure that has never been done 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Wow. And so I'm going to just add this part, going back to your life story, because I don't know that just anybody can do this. And so let me add this part to let the listeners know a little bit about you. So you didn't have just one heart transplant. You had...
I had 2 heart transplants.
2 heart transplants. And the thing about it, which Tim didn't mention, is after waiting all that time, thinking about his daughters, his wife, and everything, and losing money and suffering through it, a heart was made available to you, but you gave that heart to the woman next to you.
That was my first heart transplant surgery, yes.
Yes.
I think it became, because I was reading the Proverbs 31, it was all about helping those that I need. And I decided in the hospital that that's going to be my mission statement when I start the company. Now, before I can start my company, I waited 5 months, and now my chance of dying is about 95%. I mean, right. I was ready to collapse, and just before I basically become unconscious, and the doctor came to me and says, Tim, we have found a perfect heart for you. Today you're going to have the surgery. I said, thank you so much. And doctor looked at me and says, that's great. It's going to be your heart. Let's do a surgery. Call your family, have them ready to come, and
right.
What you guys have to do. It's going to be tonight. And then this doctor, for some reason, mentioned, the girl next door? Yes. Well, she came, she flew in by helicopter about 3 days ago. That's what I heard. Well, we did some examination. We found out that if she does not get heart transplant in 2 days, she's going to die. And I just to myself, well, that's too bad. And then I was kind of hoping that my doctor would probably stop, but he continued and said, well, actually the heart that she needs, the same heart that you need, that you're receiving today.
Wow.
That just, I could have just, I've waited here 5 months. It's only been 3 days, and it's my turn, and I have a 95% of dying anyways, and it's just got 2 days. But then this Proverbs 31 just hit me so hard, and it's just to help those that I need. And so I asked the doctor, if that's the case, how long do I have? He told me 7 days.
Wow, 7 days.
And I decided to make a long story short, I decided to give that heart. Told him to give that heart to her. And in the beginning, she resisted, apologizing. She didn't mean it that way. Eventually, this young lady got the heart, and then within 7 days, I became unconscious.
Right.
But then I received the heart about
another miracle, right? Because it's a miracle to get the heart, and then you gave it up, and then you had 7 days to live. You went unconscious, and by a miracle, a second heart was made available to you, and
That's
you
right.
got that heart.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fast forward because people don't know this, and I'm not going to let you tell this because I'm running out of time. So everything is going great for Tim Haahs, Tim Haahs and Associates, Timothy Haahs and Associates. He's got accolades, and he's really, doing super great. He's speaking. He's this great businessman. Out of nowhere, he needs a second heart, and he's back in the hospital. But you can't get a second heart. But what happened is the same doctor who talked to him and kind of talked him out of getting his heart was the doctor the second time. And even though Tim Haahs was not eligible for a second heart, what he said was, you gave up a perfectly good heart, and we gave you a not-so-good heart. And so you were eligible for that second heart transplant.
The second heart transplant is actually, I do have I actually got it.
Yes.
It was potentially.
I guess the third one,
yes.
I guess. Okay. Yes. The hearts add up.
Yes.
So I really bring that out because you are a special kind of person. You're a person who not just kind of read a Bible or read some book and said, oh, that really clicks with me. You're a person who made a life decision, a life and death situation, and and have kind of used that Proverbs 31 as very impactful to your life and a foundation of your business. And your business has been truly blessed, and you've done great work. And you have a nonprofit that you use
to help those who are in need.
Yes.
Oh.
Could you tell us about the nonprofit?
Well, actually, it's not quite a nonprofit. We just basically take our profit that we make for our company, and we just every year we just ask God, send us those who are in need, and we just give to them.
Yes, and I happen to know it's not a small sum. You do live well. I've been to your house, but you give a lot more in terms of charity. So what's interesting is for our listeners is when Tim Haahs built his, and he's an architect and engineer, so he designed his own place and he built it, but incorporated in that is a church, and you are the pastor of that church. I mean, I know you didn't plan on being the pastor of the church, but you are in fact at this time the pastor of the church as well.
It just happened, yes.
Yeah, so it's all very interesting, and I like to bring it up to our listeners because you're just people so often these days are struggling with business, struggling with life, struggling with balancing their values and how to have a worthwhile, meaningful life. And at least here's an example of someone who made a commitment, and it has turned out well, and it is really out of the box. As I said before, if someone asked me, and I'm an attorney, that, hey, I have this really idealistic way of making everybody happy, I'd be like, well, listen, that's great. Go ahead, but don't be surprised if it doesn't work out, because it usually does not work out in my experience. But you're one of the exceptions where it really does work out.
Yeah, from my experience, people would say work hard, study hard. I think that's all important for the success. And from my experience, I've been telling young people that the best shortcut to success is sacrifice. Sacrificing for others.
So let me ask you this. You have given seminars, and I don't know if you've actually done a business seminar. If you have, or if you were, how would you summarize, your business advice to people, how, real business people could use your management, style? Yeah.
Well, you go to business seminar, everybody says, it's not just the patent, it's not just the product, it's the people that matters the most. That's where you need to not only invest, that's where you need to put all your energy. And you need to find a way to motivate people. We're going to motivate with the money, of course, but that's going to be short-lived. But if you motivate with the care and love and the helping those who are in need, and they see the greater purpose. And that's what truly motivates employees and people around us.
Okay, well, fantastic. Now, would you just let our listeners know if they want to learn more about Tim Haahs, Timothy Haahs Associates, where do they go?
Well, let's see. You can go to our website.
Yes.
Timothy Haahs and Associates, TIMOTHY. Last name is HAAHS and Associates, and you can find us.
Okay. Otherwise, Google about Tim or Timothy Haahs, and
that's right.
You'll find out a lot about him. So with that, We are going to take a break right now for our sponsors. Thank you.
You are listening to In the Know with David O. Informative, substantive, intelligent talk radio on 860 AM WWDB.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by the Philly Labor RX Injured Workers Pharmacy Network, featuring PPC Pharmacy, First Choice Pharmacy, and Precision Scripts, providing injured workers with premium products and services from the point of injury through the entire healing process. The Philly Labor RX Pharmacy Network cares about injured workers.
Think of all the purchases you need to make this holiday season. Gifts, food, travel, and everything to make the season brighter. Well, we've got a card for that. At American Heritage Federal Credit Union, our Platinum MasterCard gives you buying power, a great low rate, and rewards too. With no annual fee, it's the perfect holiday and everyday credit card. Apply for yours now at cardforthat.com or call 888-553-1234. American Heritage Federal Credit Union. We've got a card for that.
My friends, this is Joe Kraus. You've heard me on Philadelphia radio now for over 20 years, and you know I don't often endorse products or people unless they are real game changers. I want to tell you about Weinerman Pain and Wellness, located in Center City, Philadelphia. And at the end of this short personal endorsement, I want you to consider Weinerman Pain and Wellness. If you are recovering from an injury, if you or a family member has been diagnosed with a disorder that has stopped you in your tracks, or if you're like me, determined to learn about wellness while getting yourself prepared to stay healthy so you can enjoy the blessings of your family. Remember the name of this warm and caring location, Weinerman Pain and Wellness. Why should you consider Weinerman Pain and Wellness? Because they are who you expect them to be. Weinerman Pain and Wellness, on the web at WeinermanPainandWellness.com.
Weinerman Pain and Wellness, located at 100 South Broad Street, just south of City Hall. Call Weinerman Pain and Wellness at 215-988-9503. That's 215-988-9503. Call today.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps demonstrate their commitment to defend the American way of life. Since 1775, we have served our nation as a force in readiness. From combat operations to humanitarian assistance in every corner of the world. No matter where the mission takes us today or wherever our country needs us tomorrow, we always remember the land we call home. As Marines, we take a stand for each other, for our nation, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
This holiday season, you probably have your own wish list. A new kitchen, a new home, or a new car for the new year. Well, we've got a loan for that. At American Heritage Federal Credit Union, we have the perfect loan to make your wish list come true. With great low rates and flexible terms designed to fit your budget. Visit loansforthat.com. That's loansforthat.com to get started today. Or call 888-553-1234. American Heritage Federal Credit Union. We've got a loan for that.
Okay, we're getting ready. Welcome back. This is David O, and you're in the know with David O. We just finished our conversation with Tim Haahs of Timothy Haahs Associates, engineers and architects. And now we're going to speak with a very talented filmmaker, Tigre Hill. Tigre is in the studio with me right now. Tigre, how you doing?
Good afternoon, Councilman. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
It's great having you here. So let me tell the viewers, viewers, I guess we sometimes have viewers, but the listeners, a little bit about you. You were born right here in Pennsylvania, in Pittsburgh, but raised in West Philadelphia, and you are a filmmaker. The Shame of a City is, I'd say, the first work that really came on the radar. It was about the 2003 mayoral election here in Philadelphia between Sam Katz and Mayor John Street. followed up with a interesting and controversial documentary, The Barrel of a Gun. I say controversial because there was controversy, not because it was controversial, but it's a controversial topic in that you have a very polarized group of people and some very strongly committed people to one side or the other. And you made a documentary. It's about the 1981 murder of police officer Daniel Faulkner, and the defendant there who was found guilty is Mumia Abu-Jamal. And you are working on a project currently which is coming out, I understand, the spring of 2017, The Corrupt and the Dead, about the black, Italian, and Irish mobs in Philadelphia from 1903 to 2000. And another project that I'm going to let you tell the listeners about, because you're kind of getting back to your roots as a filmmaker in this one, as opposed to what you told me you kind of veered off somehow into being a documentary filmmaker. So with that, let me ask you, how are you doing right now? What are your projects that you're working on?
Well, I'm finishing up The Corrupt and the Dead.
Yes.
I was just actually in New York this weekend showing footage to somebody that's going to be putting it out. So I'm finishing that up. When you're finishing something up, it's pretty hectic.
Yes. Okay.
And I'm in pre-production on American Zealot. It took a little bit more time than we thought, but that's what happens in this business. But I hope to be shooting that in March.
And what is American Zealot about?
American Zealot is about the life and times of civil rights activist Cecil B. Moore. And I was attracted to his story because he was unlike any other civil rights person I ever read about.
How so?
Well, first of all, he was a Montford Point Marine. He was
yes.
One of the first black Marines, and he came out of the Marine Corps and he fought in the Pacific. And we all know war is hell, but fighting in the Pacific was some of the most horrible situations you could find yourself in. He fought in the Pacific, and he came back to America, and he pretty much had a chip on his shoulder. It was, he was very pro-American, loved the Constitution, loved everything America was about. And he said, listen, I'm not going to have somebody tell me I can't do this or do that, and neither are you. Right. And he said, whatever rights that I can't have, I'm going to take. And he became quite a force. Now, another aspect of the film we examine is he was a very hard drinker. And back then they did not have something called PTSD.
Right.
They were, you got home, you took an aspirin, and you got over it.
Right.
Well, he was very much a hard drinker all day, and that was his way of dealing with his PTSD. And he was in a lot of controversial situations, and he had issues, but overall, he was a very flawed man that did a lot of good for people.
Could you let the listeners know, kind of like the time frame of his life, and when is he doing the civil rights work?
Well, the film primarily deals with 63 to 67.
Mm-hmm. So these 4 years of his life.
Yeah, I mean, he went on to he became a city councilman like you.
Yes.
But we talk about from 63 to 67. We have flashbacks to his time in the Marine Corps.
Right.
But in those years, he became the president of the NAACP. It was a very controversial election. C. Dolores Tucker did not want him to become president, and they called him all kinds of names.
Right.
And he led the NAACP in Philadelphia, and he fought with, at the time, Deputy Police Commissioner Rizzo and Mayor Tate. And then he went on to, which most people know about, he went on to lead the march to desegregate Girard College. But there's a lot about his life. Like when I first started this, I was like, okay, Girard College, interesting. But I spent a long time at Temple's archives reading all these newspaper accounts of him, and every day there was something controversial going on that he was involved with.
Right. Could you give us some examples of the things that might have really surprised you that we might not have thought about?
Well, he I don't know if I should tell this story. Well, he was very connected to a lot of very famous people. He just wasn't local. I mean, he was friends with Jimmy Hoffa. He was friends with Jackie Robinson. All the people you would think of that time that were big. He had some interaction with. And I found that fascinating because you're thinking, okay, Philadelphia, he deals with the people in Philadelphia. No, he was known throughout the country.
Right. Now, Philadelphia in those days was one of the premier cities in the United States, much more so than today, I think. And at that time, certainly in the world. Does that play into this or no? Not really. I'd like to say it's a story of a man that happened to live in Philadelphia. Okay. Philadelphia is very much a character in it. Right. But what he did and how he lived his life is so fascinating, whether he lived in St. Louis or Alaska. He was just a fascinating character. So let's go to put that on pause for a second, but let's go to the film that's going to come out in the spring, The Corrupt and the Dead. How did you come across that? Because we're talking about American zealot, civil rights leader, and you're about to release something about the mob. It was another type of accident that happened. I was in the FBI Citizens Academy, and they brought in an informant to talk about his life as an informant. I kept asking all these questions about his life, as a former mobster. Right. And now he's in the witness protection program. I'm sorry, he wasn't an informant. Right. So after the class, a woman came up to me and said, "Are you doing a mafia film next?" I was like, "Nah, I'd have to do it differently. I mean, there's so many of them out there." Then I started thinking about how I could do it differently. And how would you do it differently? Well, I think I did differently because it looks at, there's violence and all this type of stuff, but it really looks at the detrimental effects of the economy and how it costs the regular citizens, which people don't think about. And it's not a lecture, but throughout the film, we give a reminder on what was going on and how this was affecting regular people. Whereas people think it's just the prostitution or the loan sharking, it very much affected a lot of people. And there's another city council angle in the film, too. That's quite extensive. I shiver to think. I guess I'll have to watch it, huh? Right. Well, you'll be at the premiere. Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So that brings up an interesting point. So as a filmmaker, as basically an artist, a creative person, how do you arrive at your projects? And what part of, what you're trying to say or reveal comes into it, and how do you finance this? How do you get to do this? The way I do it, it's difficult. First of all, I take forever to do everything. That's why. I just take a long time, but I take the time for a reason. If I'm going to do a project, I have to be in love with it to stay with it for a long time. So if I say I'm going to do this, if 6 months down the line I'm going to be like, I'm not into it anymore, then that's not the project for me. Right. So all the projects I've worked on, I really want to stick with for a long time, for the long haul, because that's what it's going to take to get them done. Barrel of a Gun, a work that you are known for, and certainly you've been criticized for and praised for. Tell me two things. What did you want to do with that, and how do you feel about the positive and negative criticisms? I knew that I was going to get a lot of flack for it. I mean, I'm not naive to think I wouldn't. I didn't expect there to be such a reaction where I thought, okay, I'm going to get criticized for this, but at least we're going to have a dialogue and we're going to move the conversation forward. Well, that never happened. There were screenings I had to go to. I had to have security. Wow. And a lot of other people that, let's say they were pro the message of the movie, which I think is balanced, but they were pro the message of the movie. A lot of people were also scared to show up, the show and speak out and host the film. So interesting. I don't regret doing the film. It was a great experience. I spent 4 years on it, and I learned a lot. I will say I wasn't expected for the backlash was pretty strong. So let me go back to my question. Why did you do it? What were you trying to do? And then secondly, let's stick with that first. What were you trying to do with that film? I saw it's kind of, I saw a situation, it wasn't, after I finished Shame of a City, I wasn't going to do another Philadelphia story. I saw this Mumia story, and I had always heard about it, and I looked at some material that had been done on it, and I didn't think they had really looked into the film looked into the subject like it should have, and I thought it was interesting. So
it all started in a bar when I met Bill Colarulo, and he said, I was out that night, and I was at the hospital, and he gave me this riveting account, and I said, you know what, I got to make this film.
So you made the film, and you did get a backlash. Do you feel that in part that backlash is because you're African American?
Well, it's easy to say that. Whether if I was white saying the same thing, I mean, there would be a backlash because of the position you take.
Right.
Of course, African American was part of it with some people. Some of it is your position. It's multifaceted. There's a lot of controversial issues within that story. And again, I'm proud of the work. I stand by it. But when you're having to get security to go to regular screenings,
right, that's a little challenging.
It takes the challenge, the fun out of it,
What have you learned from that? What has that done for you as a filmmaker?
Oh, it was a great experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. So you go through that, and not everything is going to come out exactly the way you want it.
Right.
So you just have to move on and keep working. That's all.
Do we see any of that experience in The Corrupt and the Dead, in how you're approaching American Zealot? Or is that just like, I did that, that's over, it doesn't really have any lasting effect?
What you mean, the controversy?
No, you're kind of like having gone through the challenges, needing security. Does that strengthen
Oh, yeah, well, I'll tell you, I got a lot of threats because Shame of a City, and that prepared me for the barrel of a gun.
Yes, okay.
So I say doing a mafia movie or an organized crime movie, that's like making a Disney movie compared to what I've gone through. So, no, it's just, again, it's all about the story. What's an intriguing story? What's what I think myself and the audience are going to find intriguing.
Right.
But, yeah, I've gone through a couple of little war stories that helps you in having to present the material.
Curiosity question. So how do you balance the art with the profit? In other words, you want to make this film. At the same time, you got to fund it. And at the end of the day, what do you have to show for it financially?
Well, you learn through that because I mean, I've had some successes and I've had recently I had a failure. And that was because of the controversy and everything else. So what I tried to do was take an approach with funding the current project. I have many good people around me. Omar Williams has been with me since the beginning, has backed me, and I work with some great people. And they believe in your work, and you hopefully can go to people and say, hey, listen, this is what I'm trying to do. Would you mind supporting it? Now, American Zealot's a whole different animal. As far as funding, and we were talking about that in New York this week, and also with financing because it's a much larger budget, and I am not going to be in charge of that. So we have to work with the finance people and make sure we're on the same page with the artistic people, and see how it comes out.
If people want to buy your work, or if they want to get engaged with your work, anything like that, where do they go?
Yes. Basically, I'm on social media. My name, Tigre, last name Hill. But finally, early next year, I will have a website where you can go and stream and view and purchase everything. But you can find me on social media, Facebook, Twitter. I hardly use Twitter, but I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, Tigre Hill 68. And just look me up.
Okay. Finally, is crowdfunding a part of what you do, or you don't do anything?
No,
with that?
It's crowdfunding's great, but it has to be the right time and the right project for that, and so not at this moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you for joining me, and good luck with all your work. I met Tigre very early on. He was like a young guy there with a camera. I didn't know what he was doing, his little camera during the
during
2003.
Yeah, that's when we met.
And here he is, a top-notch filmmaker. So, good luck to you. And certainly I'll be looking to be at the premiere of The Corrupt and the Dead, and looking forward to seeing American Zealot.
And thank you for your support of the arts. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we're going to take a commercial break. Stay tuned, because the important thing is, how do you get some money? And we're going to have the executive director of the Philadelphia Cultural Fund on to let you know how you get a little piece of $3 million.
You are listening to In the Know with David O. Informative, substantive, intelligent talk radio on 860 AM WWDB.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by the Philly Labor RX Injured Workers Pharmacy Network, featuring PPC Pharmacy, First Choice Pharmacy, and Precision Scripts, providing injured workers with premium products and services from the point of injury through the entire healing process. The Philly Labor RX Pharmacy Network cares about injured workers.
Think of all the purchases you need to make this holiday season. Gifts, food, travel, and everything to make the season brighter. Well, we've got a card for that. At American Heritage Federal Credit Union, our Platinum MasterCard gives you buying power, a great low rate, and rewards too. With no annual fee, it's the perfect holiday and everyday credit card. Apply for yours now at cardforthat.com or call 888-553-1234. American Heritage Federal Credit Union. We've got a card for that.
My friends, this is Joe Krause. You've heard me on Philadelphia radio now for over 20 years, and you know I don't often endorse products or people unless they are real game changers. I want to tell you about Weinerman Pain and Wellness, located in Center City, Philadelphia. And at the end of this short personal endorsement, I want you to consider Weinerman Pain and Wellness. If you are recovering from an injury, if you or a family member has been diagnosed with a disorder that has stopped you in your tracks, or if you're like me, determined to learn about wellness while getting yourself prepared to stay healthy so you can enjoy the blessings of your family. Remember the name of this warm and caring location, Weinerman Pain and Wellness. Why should you consider Weinerman Pain and Wellness? Because they are who you expect them to be. Weinerman Pain and Wellness, on the web at WeinermanPainandWellness.com.
Weinerman Pain and Wellness, located at 100 South Broad Street, just south of City Hall. Call Weinerman Pain and Wellness at 215-988-9503. That's 215-988-9503. Call today.
This holiday season, you probably have your own wish list. A new kitchen, a new home, or a new car for the new year. Well, we've got a loan for that. At American Heritage Federal Credit Union, we have the perfect loan to make your wish list come true. With great low rates and flexible terms designed to fit your budget. Visit loansforthat.com. That's loansforthat.com to get started today. Or call 888-553-1234. American Heritage Federal Credit Union. We've got a loan for that.
You are listening to the Intruders, a Philadelphia-based music group, very famous, one of my favorite bands. And you're listening to David O. You're in the know with David O. We've had a couple of great guests. I guess I'm slurring my words today, but great guests. Timothy Haahs, Tim Haahs, architects, engineers, and Tigre Hill. Listen, tune in next Tuesday, 2 to 3, here on WWDB 860 Talk Radio. My guest will be Tim Williams, the Executive Director of the Philadelphia Veterans Multi-Service Center, really a great entity, premier entity for serving veterans. Dr. Evan Malone, the President, founder of NextFab. If you don't know what that is, believe me, you will want to know because you can make it yourself. And our featured guest is going to be a young lady who is the PHL Live Center Stage People's Choice. She is a country music singer from Pottstown, and her name is Kendall Conrad. And so you'll get a little bit of music for the holidays as well as finding out about this dynamic young lady. But right now, the $3 million question is, how do I fund my art project? And so the city of Philadelphia has got a mechanism, and to tell us all about that is the executive director, Barbara Silzle, executive director of the Philadelphia Cultural Fund. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Barbara, what could you tell the folks out there listening? How do you apply for this money? What is this money, and what's the process?
Sure. Thanks for asking. The Philadelphia Cultural Fund is a nonprofit organization, 501c3, and we get a yearly allocation from the mayor and the city council. Thank you. to be the entity that that runs a process, a peer panel process, to select arts and culture organizations to get grants every year. So this is our 24th year.
Wow.
The city, through the Cultural Fund, has awarded over $43 million in total. This year, because of the allocation, we'll be providing grants of about $3 million. We just completed 3 weeks of panels. We had 77 peer panelists working with us, volunteer, and we paneled, we call it paneling, 116 nonprofit organizations. So each organization gets a site visit. They apply to us in September. Then they get, we review their applications and assign them to panelists. They have to go through a site visit. It's pretty rigorous. And the wonderful thing about the program is if you're an established organization over 5 years, you can apply for its general operating money, which is amazingly profound, kind of impactful, high impact money, that a lot of grant makers and providers of grants give project money. And so it's very limited.
Yes.
The Cultural Fund provides general operating money, and it meets organizations where they are. So we have tiny little organizations with budgets under $5,000 that apply to us, and we have multi-million-dollar organizations that apply to us. But our process is the same for all. So it's the city's mechanism to provide kind of an equitable way for organizations to new and emerging and established to apply for city support, and by going through the Cultural Fund, they're vetted.
Yes.
The grants can be as small as, I think last year our smallest grant was about $340, and our highest grant was a little over $16,000. And we provide, often with the established organizations, again, they can be multi-year grants. So if they're paneled this year, and if they still are eligible next year, they'll get a grant in 18 and 19 without having to go through the whole application process again.
That's great.
So it means that the money's going to the organization that's been fully vetted, and they're still eligible. They do an interim report, but they don't have to use their nonprofit energies to just keep seeking new money if they're still eligible. So all told, last year we provided grants to 284 nonprofit arts and culture organizations in every district of the city.
Yes.
This year, I'm thrilled to say we really did a big push to make sure that the organizations that are out there doing the work, and of course we all know a lot of these organizations, if they have audiences downtown and that sort of thing, and they bring people maybe from around the world to visit them. But what's incredible about Philadelphia, we know it's rich with communities and neighborhoods.
Yes.
It's a big city, and arts and culture are happening all the way out there. And we really did a big push this year, even letting the CDCs know, et cetera, that we have the Philadelphia Cultural Fund, that this is the way the city supports arts and culture in an equitable and powerful way. And we had 24 new organizations apply this year, which is pretty wonderful. So we'll see in March how it all shakes out when we go through all the assessments and whatnot.
So every September, people should be ready to apply. When does the application? When does it come out? When do they know when to apply? Where to get the application?
Great question. Well, first of all, people should always check in with our website, and they're welcome to call us. Our website is www.philaculturalfund.org. The application and guidelines come out in July.
Okay.
Maybe the end of June, maybe the end of July, but in the summer.
Right.
And then the deadline is usually September 30th, so look out for that. All this information will be on our website once we know those specific dates. I should also say that while the grantees are all nonprofits, but if you are working with an organization that is not a 501c3, you might still qualify to apply if you have a fiscal sponsor.
Oh, okay.
So a fiscal sponsor is kind of an intermediary that is a 501c3.
Right.
So if the group, and this is the way a lot of art is happening now, not all organizations want to be full 501c3s, and they can be legitimate organizations if they work with a fiscal sponsor. So that's, I would say, about 20% of our grantees work with fiscal sponsors. So if you're out there doing art and culture work, I would say go to our website, give us a call, find out if you don't have a fiscal sponsor, who our pre-approved fiscal sponsors are, how you might get a fiscal sponsor.
That'd be very helpful.
Because it's, art and culture is happening, and we really see it as, of course, it's entertaining. Some of it can be entertaining, but some of it can be just like adds quality of life in day-to-day lives, whether it's to children getting after-school arts and culture activities, or to the elderly, or to veterans. I mean, we know art can have a profound impact on the quality of life beyond entertainment, which is also critically important to quality of life in Philadelphia.
Yeah, can you give our listeners some sense of the diversity, just the wide variety of types of programs and groups you have funded?
Sure. Well, Ballet X that you mentioned, you had someone
great group there
from them last week.
Very professional.
Yes, very.
Yes, very clean.
I would say, I think that the majority of our groups are over 5 years old, so they're what we call established.
Yes.
But also, you might be surprised to know that about 25% of our grantees are small organizations, budgets of under $50,000, but they're doing this work in their neighborhoods and in their communities for very little money, often without anybody getting paid.
Right.
Part of a passion project. So that is why your allocation that we get from the city council and the mayor goes so far, because it depends on the budget size. That's part of it. But also these peer panelists go out and do the site visits and whatnot, and every organization and every application is scored. So they're scored on their ability to operate as a well operating organization. But then also we take into account their annual budget. So the variety is vast.
Okay, fantastic. And let me just say that one of the things I love about the Philadelphia Cultural Fund is that it provides this money and to so many groups all over the city, doing all kinds of things from cultural dance to art education for kids. And as you said, a lot of people are just really good-hearted people in the neighborhoods helping out, and they don't have any other way of really funding things. And so, this vehicle is a great vehicle for that.
Critical funding. So we are so grateful to the city. And when I think of the thousands and thousands of people that are coming in contact with these organizations, they're grateful too. Okay,
so in our final seconds, could you just let people know the phone number and the email address again?
Sure. The phone number is 215-686-0343, and our website is philaculturalfund.org.
All right. Thank you very much, and thank you, everyone, for listening. Tune in next week.
You've been listening to In the Know with David O. on 860 AM WWDB. Tune in again next Tuesday at 2 p.m. for more informative, substantive, intelligent talk radio with Philadelphia Councilman David O.